Hello all. Today I have a very special episode coming your way. As you guys know, or you guys probably don't know, but depending on the title and the thumbnail, you guys might be able to guess that today we're going to be back with another GM game analysis. Except, hold your horses, because as you saw in the thumbnail, it is not clickbait. A couple weeks ago, Mr. Beast, yes, the real Mr. Beast, went on GM Hikaru Nakamura's stream and they played some chess and hung out. No, I am not joking. This is actually true. But then I was thinking, what can we do since I really want to analyze these games and show it to you guys? Except Mr. Beast is not a Grandmaster, but GM Hikaru is. Right? Because of his name, GM Hikaru, Grandmaster Hikaru, right? So we know we can't demote Hikaru's title and put this in a viewer game analysis, so we decide to upgrade Mr. Beast and pretend he's a GM for this game. So as long as there's one GM in the game, we'll most likely put it in the GM game analysis series. And as you guys know, we're analyzing some of these most crazy games. But there's a really big twist. In some of the games, since Hikaru's obviously much stronger, Hikaru plays without some of his pieces. It gets really interesting. So make sure to watch till the end, subscribe, and like if you haven't already, and let's get started with game number 1. You might be confused why I put a game number 1 transition right before I went into this, but that's because Mr. Beast and GM Hikaru, they played 10 games total, right? And the time control was 8 minutes and 2-second increment, which means each side has 8 minutes to start with, but each time they move, they gain 2 seconds. In this game, GM Hikaru is playing black. As you can see, he's playing without his B8 knight, and Mr. Beast is playing white. Let's see how the game turns out. Starts with D4, good move. E6, also good. Knight C3, D5, B3. I really like this move because the problem is the idea of B3 moves is to bring your bishop to this B2 square and attack on this diagonal. Except currently, if the bishop comes to the B2 square, it's just basically a big pawn because this knight on C3 is blocking it, the pawn on D4 is blocking it, so the bishop won't have much space. So I don't like that move. And then we have knight F6, and then bishop B2, C5, trying to gain some counterplay in the center. Since, remember, Hikaru's playing without a knight, so if he plays very passively and trades away all the pieces, he will be losing. So he wants to try and go for some counterplay or some attack and hopefully win the game. So right away he's playing the C5 move so that he goes for counterplay. Instead, if he played a move such as bishop E7 or something to try and prepare to castle, I mean, that's all well and good, except for the fact is he's playing more passive. He's trying to get his king safe first. I mean, you always want to get your king safe, but right now, especially in the opening, he wants to go for the early counterplay, so that's why he plays C5. And then Mr. Beast responds with knight F3, guarding this D4 pawn, and then we have bishop D7. This bishop D7 move is fine because right now Hikaru's still developing all his pieces, so for now that's good. And then D takes E5 and bishop takes C5. See, that's good because if Hikaru would have, instead of played bishop D7, if he would have played bishop here, and then it was takes, as you can see, he moved his bishop twice, which was a complete waste of time because instead, as you can see what happened in the game, right away he took. So he didn't have to waste another move, remember? And then we have queen d2. Now you can prepare to castle queen side, and maybe later on if you play fianchetto, which is what this is called when you move up your pawn one square on the G file or the B file, and then put your bishop, it's called a fianchetto. Like, almost sounds like a name of a cheese brand, but fianchetto. And then, so maybe if he fianchettos later on, we can castle kingside. But for now, castles queenside. This is still fine. I mean, remember, Mr. Beast is still up a piece because of how the game started. And then we have rook c8. Nice move by Hikaru. He's trying to slowly put pressure, maybe get rid of the c3 after the c3 knight gets terminated or exterminated. Then this whole c file will be open and Hikaru can start launching some attacks. And then we have g3. maybe to play bishop b2, but maybe to play bishop g2, excuse me. But I don't like this idea. He's playing very passively, right? And you're up a piece. You should try and trade some stuff. But we have b5. Nice move, trying to take the initiative. Maybe b4 later on. And now we have a3, trying to stop b4. And then we have a5. Again, trying to push b4. He really wants to get that move in. And then we have e3, b4, a takes b4, a takes b4. Now this starts to get a little bit tricky. This king is here. It's blocked by the queen, the rook, and this bishop. And let's say the bishop somehow gets let's say black somehow gets rid of this bishop. Then there can be threats of the rook here, and then the rook here, and maybe some checkmate ideas. But now we have knight b5. Knight e4, trying to attack the queen, and look, he's maybe coming knight e3, you know, attack this, and then after that, the bishop will trade, so like, let's say there's a random move such as like h3 or something, right? And then, well, that doesn't work right away because we take the queen, but maybe a move like queen e2, but then we come here, right, and we're attacking this and this. And then maybe later on, because remember, he's still down a piece, so he needs to play practically. Doesn't depend on what the engine says. Here he needs to play practically. So then maybe trades, and he gets a strong pawn here, right? And then maybe some checkmating ideas could occur. But what happens is after knight comes into e4 and attacks the queen moves, and then we have queen a5. Look at that, the queen's coming in, slowly but surely. Black is starting the attack. Then we have knight e5, trying to attack this bishop. And then we have knight c3 coming in. But now this bishop is hanging, so Mr. Beast takes it, but then bishop e7. Okay, this move was horrible. I'm not sure if it was a mouse slip or if it was a blunder or something, but this just doesn't add up, because now what we can do is, since nothing is forced, we can play a move such as maybe queen h5, you know, and start our own attack maybe later with bishop d3, and then threaten to take on f8. But if we also play because if we're not careful here, because after knight takes here, Hikaru could have simply just taken the queen, correct? Because after queen e2, right, and then we had the queen a5, knight in, and then knight c3, right? And then after knight takes d7, Hikaru just moved back. I don't think he realized that he could just simply take here with check. And then after bishop takes, what he could do is he could probably, maybe an idea could possibly be doubling up or making sure this rook is not under attack anymore. But yeah, I don't know what that bishop e7 move was. I'm not sure. And then we have queen a2, bishop takes c3, b takes c3. Now look, this pawn, very, very powerful. It guards both the d2 square and the b2 square, right? But now Mr. Beast gets a little bit greedy, and he takes this f8 rook. Uh-oh. This game was back and forth completely, where Hikaru made one huge mistake, bishop e7. I don't know why. Possibly very much a mouse slip, or he just didn't see this idea, right? And now, after all of this, Mr. Beast had just blundered with knight f8. See if you guys can try and find the mate in one. Yup, it's very simple. What did I tell you about this back rank? It can get tricky sometimes. So now we have queen to a1, check, and mate. Now let's move on to game number 2. Wow, Mr. Beast didn't do very well in game number 2 either. This time Hikaru didn't play with his g8 knight or b8 knight. And this was very, very fun and cool to watch in person. I mean, how often do you get to see a top grandmaster competing with a top content creator? Let's be real. Hikaru has made a big change to this new chess boom. He's amassing close to 1 million followers on Twitch. He's growing rapidly on YouTube as well. Same with Mr. Beast. If you watch YouTube, you must have heard of the name Mr. Beast. He's made such an impact to all of this. But unfortunately, his big impact and generosity in giving money is not so good in chess, as he's also lost this game. Let's see what happened. d4, d6, knight c3, g6, h4, and h6. Mr. Beast goes for the early attack. And then we have h5, g5, knight f3, bishop g7, and g4. This was a slight mistake, and GM Hikaru capitalized immediately. Bishop takes g4. Another move that would have been possible, but is not at all strong. Maybe he can go for a c5 idea, but the reason that this isn't strong is because after takes, and then takes, right, because you want to get back that pawn, it's white's turn now, and white can simply trade queens. And then after the king takes, this is much more easy for white, since now the queens are gone, there's less chances of counterplay that black can create. So then after g4, bishop takes g4, we have bishop h3. Right away, Mr. Beast is trying to trade off the bishops, but nope, Hikaru takes another free pawn. And then castles. Oh my gosh, what is this? He's castling into an attack. Look, the pawn's on g5, h6, there's a bishop on h5, another bishop could come to f6, the rook could come to g8. So many different ideas, but most importantly, g4, pushing the pawn. Now there's a fork on these two pieces. Now bishop takes g4, bishop takes g4, and now it does not look pleasant for Mr. Beast. Queen d3, queen d7. Now watch, this king side is completely blown open. No g-pawn, no h-pawn. It's very easy to attack. And then, here's where a mistake happens. Very game decisive mistake. And Hikaru finds a very, very nice mate in 3. And he uses both the queen and the bishop. They work very well together to deliver the mate. King g2. What's the first move? This one's a check. Bishop h3. So actually, let's say Mr. Beast, he played king g1 in this position. But let's say he played king g3. This is not good, because then we have queen g4 check. The reason we play queen g4 check is because now this black king is this white king is very restricted. He can only go to one square, since this queen guards all of this and all of this. And the bishop also guards this g2 square, so now after king h2, queen g2, it's checkmate. So remember, in these types of positions, you always want to look for forcing checks. But he plays king g1. And then it's a simple mate in 2 with the same idea. Queen g4 check. And now he can go to h1 or h2. It really doesn't matter. Both of them have the same mate. But in game, he played king h1 and then queen g2 mate. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more videos just like this one. There were 10 games played, and this was only part 1. So I hope to see you in the next part of Mr. Beast versus GM Hikaru. If you haven't already, subscribe, drop a like, and I hope to see you soon.